Hi, everyone. I hope God's been blessing you today. Today is January 13th, 2023. And today I'm going to pick up where I left off in my last video. I'm going to start with the rest of my school years and then probably end this video with graduation and a little bit, from where we went after graduation. And this way, the next video after this would be about, well, I'll leave that to the end. So I'm going to start off by talking about junior high. So here I'm in Tennessee. Junior high was rough. Was picked on from the moment I started school. Everybody made fun of my Rhode Island accent, the way I pronounce certain words, my weight, my looks. It was very different from where I grew up. I didn't really talk to anyone at the beginning. I pretty much kept to myself. I would always eat lunch at a table by myself. I didn't really want to talk to anyone because weirdly enough, I was shy, and that was very odd for me because in Rhode Island, I was very outgoing, talked to people, and always, made friends very quickly. But I think because I was thrown into a situation where I've never, I was uncomfortable, and everyone was different. Everyone already had their own friends. I felt like I was intruding, I guess, into other people's lives, which I didn't like. So I've always been the type of person where someone has to talk to me first. If I go anywhere and there's a bunch of people, I'm not gonna say anything. But if someone says hi to me, well, then forget it. Then you've opened the door for me to now talk to you, because if I was to go up to someone that I didn't know, I would feel like I'm intruding on their lives or kind of bothering them. So I never wanted to do that. I just stayed to myself, and I ate lunch by myself, and I just listened to everybody bully me pretty much. There was this girl that came up to me and she introduced herself to me. And she said, "Why don't you come and sit with me and my friends?" And I was so happy because I had been so lonely for the first couple months. Once she invited me to go and sit with them, I was so happy. Like, we were talking about all these different things and, where they came from and where they grew up and where I grew up. And it just was a great time. And I really enjoyed hanging out with them. The problem is, back in the 80s, I guess people down south, they didn't really like the fact that I was sitting with a bunch of people that were a different race than I was, which it didn't bother me because I had come from Rhode Island, and where we grew up, there was tons of different nationalities and races where I lived, and we had multiple friends. And so I didn't understand like why people were they were kind of picking on me, but they were also picking on these girls. And I didn't like that because they were trying to be nice to me, but they were getting picked on. And then, of course, there was a bunch of name calling, and we actually pushed through that. And I'm not one to start arguments with people. I don't like confrontation, and I would never be one to, start a fist fight or anything. So I just ignored them. They would do it every day, but I didn't care. I just continued to hang out with the people that, introduced themselves to me, and I liked them and they liked me, and that's all I cared about. And this was one of the things that happened that even when I think about it today, I think to myself, what the heck were these people thinking? All right, so let me explain it. So, like I said, I was chunky. I wasn't, I'm chunky now. I'm still chunky. But, in seventh and eighth grade, I was, For my height, I was pretty chunky, but I was so nice and I didn't. Anyway, I thought one of the football players was adorable. Like he was just so cute and he seemed very nice or whatever. And so I told some of my friends that I thought he was cute. And of course, it probably got back to him. And then I think his football player friends like started making fun of him because I was fat. And I'll never forget this day. The cafeteria at this school was the thing that connected the high school to the junior high. And so we would, obviously the high school kids would go first and then all their lunches would be over and then we would go and have our lunches. So when I had to go through the cafeteria to get to the high school principal's office because my brother and I were getting picked up and I met him in the principal's office so that way we could just get picked up in one area. And I was going through the cafeteria and the minute I walked through, I don't know how in the world these kids knew that I was coming through or whatever. I don't know what happened, but there was like 3 or 4 football players in the cafeteria and they just jumped me. They jumped me, they started kicking me, and I was on the ground, like kind of, balled up, and I was crying and thinking to myself, like, why are these boys beating me up? Like, what did I do? Well, at that very moment that I was getting jumped, my brother happened to be going by the cafeteria to get to the principal's office for us to get picked up, and he looked in the cafeteria and saw them beating me up, and he ran in there and obviously protected me, got those kids off me, and brought me into the high school office. And I had to tell, like, I didn't know all of the kids. I just knew that they were football players, and so I just assumed that it was because they were trying to protect maybe that kid that I thought was cute. I just never in a million years would have, like, nothing like that would have ever happened in Rhode Island. To me, I don't, and maybe it did happen to people before, but I never in a million years would have thought that boys grown, well, they weren't, we're not grown-ups, but they're big enough, they're on the football team, why would they be hitting a girl? I didn't, it was weird. So that was a big huge mess, and that was very traumatic. And for a while I didn't even want to go into the cafeteria after that. Pretty sure they let me stay in a different room to eat my lunch for a while because I was traumatized by that. I didn't want to go into the cafeteria. So that was crazy. Now I'm in high school. Okay, so all that stuff's over and I've moved on, whatever. And I'm in high school now, and in high school I met 2 girls that, oh my gosh, like they were so positive. By now I'm like more outgoing, more like myself, more like what I was like in Rhode Island. And I met these 2 girls and I swear, like, we were inseparable. If I wasn't with one, I was with the other one. And so and it was great because I was able to do more stuff. Like, I was older now, so my mom didn't really like hover over me as much now. And besides, she had my stepdad, and it's kind of funny. I am gonna make a different video about my eyes, but it's kind of funny to think that it seemed like when my mom got my stepdad, she didn't really like think about my eye issue anymore. She did somewhat, but nothing close to when I was younger. So, oh man, I get a little bit older, and there's a couple things, of course, that happen that I obviously should never have done. And looking back at it now, I'm like, oh man, like one of my friends could have got hurt. So many things that can go through my mind now that I'm an adult, and I think to myself, what was I thinking? But one of my friends was in love with her boyfriend. Loved him. And she wanted to get married. They were underage, but for some reason they came up with this cockamamie scheme that they were gonna go on a plane, go down to Florida. I guess Florida lets you get married like under 18. I don't even know, but or maybe she was 18. I can't remember, but I do know that they ended up leaving. That I helped her and they left and they went on the plane, and then her mom kept asking me like where she was, and I didn't want to tell my friend because I had promised her I wasn't going to say anything, but in the back of my mind I was like, oh my god, I need to say something. But thankfully another one of our friends told um that she went on a plane, and so her dad and her mom, like, they ended up getting her back and everything worked out, thank goodness, because that could have turned out to be, very bad. Another adventure that I remember is I know I told you guys that, like, they told my mom I was going to lose my eyesight before I was 18, so of course she was never going to let me get a license. Never wanted to teach me how to drive or anything. So one day she was at work and I was with my friends had slept over, and we were in our pajamas, and I said, let's go. We're going to take the car and go ride around town. And I literally stole my mom's car. We're in our pajamas. We're driving around. And I don't even know how in the world I never got taught how to drive. I just got in the car and knew how to drive. It was weird. I think it's because I've always watched my mother. I was always in the front seat, always watched how she drove, like what was she doing with her feet, what was she doing, how to turn and all this stuff. And I just instinctively knew how to drive. And I remember my friend was like, oh my God, we're gonna get in so much trouble. But I was like, be quiet. We're just riding around. Just enjoy it. We're like riding around, and it's kind of funny because I was a bit rebellious at this time. Because, my mom, such a hovering mother that you have to know, if you're, I'm sure this has happened to many people. If you've been, kind of secluded, growing up, of course you're going to rebel when you're older, because you're going to want to do things on your own. But I will say, I never the only other thing that I did, which is kind of funny. So I stole my mom's car again another time, and we went and I got my license while I was in Tennessee. We went to the DMV, and my friend had already had her license, so we said it was her car, and I took the test and everything, and took the driver's test, and I passed, and I got my license. And I never told my mom that I had my license. Never asked to drive or nothing. I used to drive my friend's car, so I didn't really feel like I needed to tell my mom at all, because I knew she would have freaked out, because she never wanted me to get my license. So I'll touch more on this, but she ends up finding out when I'm like 21 that I have a license, and that's a funny story, and I'll tell you that in a different and probably in the next one. One of the friends that I had two brothers, and I was probably around 16 at the time. And I thought, the younger brother was cute, and we used to watch movies together. I'd sleep over my friend's house, and we would, all watch movies and with their parents and everything. And he was a nice guy. And the older brother was actually dating another one of my friends, and um he was a nice guy too. I thought he was nice. He's treating my friend fine. Well, when this particular night, I was sleeping over my friend's house, and we were watching a movie with my friend, me, her younger brother, the one I thought was cute, and then the mom and dad. And we were all watching a movie, but it started to get late. The mom and dad went to bed. And then my friend was getting tired, and she's like, oh, I think I'm gonna go to bed. And I said, all right, I'll come, I'll come now too. And her younger brother was like, well, why don't you just finish the rest of the movie with me? And I didn't think nothing about it because I had slept over this girl's house many times. And so I said, all right, I'll finish with you because I'm not really tired. So we finished the movie. And before the movie had ended, the older brother had come home and he was talking to us. And I'm not sure, but I feel like that he was drinking. And I really do think that that kid might have been drinking, but I can't honestly, yes, he was drinking. No, I can't honestly say he was drinking, but I maybe in my mind, I feel like um, I need to say that he was drinking because of what happens next. So everyone's gone to bed. And it's been like, at least an hour or two since everyone has gone to bed. And I'm getting ready to go to bed. And, the brothers are talking and they're talking to me or whatever. And so the younger brother goes in his room and I went to the bathroom and I was getting ready to go into my friend's bedroom. And the older brother kind of pushed me down the hallway into his room. And I was like, what are you doing? And so, of course, I was by him. And sadly, another time when I had to deal with that kind of issue. And I the thing that really bothers me the most is I never told my mother. I never told my mother. I told the girl, my friend, and she was like, "Oh, I don't think my brother would do that." And so it seemed like the whole issue was coming up again where people just wouldn't believe what I was telling them. It kind of brought me back to when my cousin was, doing that stuff. And I think that because nobody would believe me when I would tell them the truth on certain things that were happening, I just started to um, be like, you know what? I'm not gonna say anything to anybody about anything anymore. I'm just gonna push everything that happens to me in the back of my mind is what I would do, you know, or I thought I was doing that anyway. Like I told you before, I believed in God, and so I would pray to him and everything. And I feel like God helped me by helping me push the memories away and then like move on and act like I that stuff didn't happen. And but I will say this, the resentment that I had for my mom, it started to come out more and more every single day. We would argue all the time over anything. It's like I couldn't do anything that was good enough for my mother. Like it was always like my brother was on a pedestal and he's so talented and he's so good at this and he's so good at that. And, and he's just, it would always be him, 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 him. And I would try to do the best I could in school, just do the best I could to at least meet the same standards that my brother was meeting in my mom's eyes, but I never got it. Never. She never told me that she loved me. She never told me that she was proud of me. I just got treated totally different than my brother did. When my brother was, I want to say when he was in his senior year of high school, he told me and my mother that he was gay. And I was shocked. Like, no word of a lie, I was so shocked. I was very shocked. My mom was not shocked. My mom said she already knew, which kind of threw me for a loop because I'm like, what are you talking about? My brother had been going out with like all these girls from the school. They were beautiful. They were like all the cheerleaders and just like it was very shocking to me. I was like, oh, are you kidding? But he was like, no, I'm not kidding. And I was like, well, I mean, if you're gay, you're gay. What do you want? Well, like, I can't do anything about it. I said, I still love you, and my mom, she cried, but she said she knew. And, she said she was fine with it. I think I was like the end of 16, almost 17. And I started to date a much older man than I was. I think he was in his 30s, I'm not gonna lie. And my mom hated it. She absolutely hated it. And it's funny because I would throw in her face, well, why can't I date, this guy? Your your husband is, like 16 years younger than you. How come? So it's okay for you to be dating someone that's 16 years younger than you, but I can't date someone that's about that, difference older than me. What's the difference? And she used to get so mad, and she would say stuff like, you do as I say and not as I do. I think everyone's heard that from their parents before. I didn't care. I still dated him, and I did whatever I wanted. And I didn't listen to my mom anymore. I pretty much rebelled a lot. Now um, I was hardly home. If I wasn't, at one friend's house sleeping over, I was at my other friend's house. I would pretty much try to stay away from my house. I didn't want to be near my stepdad. I didn't want to be near my mom. I didn't want, I didn't even want to, like, I want to talk to my brother. Yeah, it was, it was weird. It was very hard. And it's weird. It's kind of hard now talking about it because I'm like, man, I didn't realize what a jerk I was. Sadly, it pushed me and my brother away because I started to be jealous of him and the relationship that he had with my mom. And I I wish that never happened because um, I regret that a lot, that I didn't spend more time with my brother. But yeah, that was definitely my fault that I didn't keep the relationship with my brother. At the same time that I'm dating this guy, I'm also working at a diner. And one day, my stepdad comes in to the diner, and he has like this woman that has like red hair with her. And they have like, I think her kid looked about 2 because he had like a sippy cup. And they were all sitting at a table, and it looked innocent to me. I didn't know who it was, and I thought maybe this lady's related to him or whatever, because we're in Tennessee and I don't know half of these people, and he seems to have a bunch of family here. So I was like, probably someone in his family. I don't have his table, but I'm going into the back, and I heard something, hit the ground. I turn around and I see that it's the little kid's juice bottle. And my stepdad he was kind of scrouched down to get it. And my stepdad didn't see me, but when he got up, he handed the cup to that lady and he kissed her on the lips. And I thought to her, and he didn't know that I saw. And I thought to myself, holy cow, what? Like, why? Who is this lady? And then I was like, who is this kid? I'm like, oh my gosh, is that like his kid? I started to think, like, is this his kid? When I went home, I didn't tell my mom right away. I waited. And then when my stepdad wasn't there, I told my mother what I saw. And of course, right away, she didn't believe me. She told me that I've always been trying to break them up. Don't, whatever. She was pretty much like, I needed to get in my room. She wasn't going to talk to me anymore. And then, of course, I went in my room and I was crying because I was thinking to myself, man, mom, like, I totally saw him kissing this lady. You probably should ask him about it. But she came to my door, which was closed, and she started yelling at me through the door, telling me that I needed to move out, that I was going to wreck her marriage, that, she loved him more than she loved me, and that nothing was gonna come in between them. And so I left. I had opened my window when I wasn't even there. I got out of my window and I went to my friend's house, and I had called my boyfriend, and I was staying at my boyfriend's house. It was bad because my stepdad had come home, I wasn't there, and I think my mom had told him what I said. Of course, he called me a liar. He said that he wasn't doing that. And when I got home, he was calling the town hall to find out the phone number to like reform school or something. He was telling me he was gonna send me to reform school. He's sick and tired of my attitude and all this stuff. Whatever. I don't even care. I'll just go live with my boyfriend. You guys can have each other. And I had left again, and I went to my friend's house, and I stayed at her house for a while, and I was telling her like the stuff that was happening. And then I went back to my house, and I was getting some stuff out of my room, and I was crying because I couldn't believe that like my mom just was like gonna pick this guy over her own daughter. And my mom came up to me and was like, "Are you on drugs?" And I was like, "What?" And then I was like, "What are you talking about? I'm trying to tell you that he's cheating on you," and but she didn't believe me, and I ended up going back to my friend's house, and all that, like, fell to the wayside, I would say, because nobody brought it up ever again, and everything. And so now, um my brother had already graduated high school by now, and I'm in the 12th grade. And I couldn't wait to graduate because I just literally wanted to leave and move out of my house and just go move in with my boyfriend forever. And I had so my brother at the time told my mom he was going to move out and go into an apartment. He already had a job and everything. And so of course, my my mom and stepdad buy him a car, and whatever. But he ends up leaving the house. He ends up going to his own apartment, and he had a car and a job, and so he didn't really come over all that much. So of course things got worse for me, because I was left there. I was getting yelled at all the time. So like I said, I'm still like staying at my friend's house, like either one of them. Like it doesn't even matter. I think I practically feel like I lived with them more. My brother at my house, he had come home, and he heard everybody yelling at each other and whatnot. He started yelling at my stepdad, and it just caused like this huge fight between everybody. I was 17 though, like, and so I said, I'm just gonna go to my friend's house until everyone calms down. I had graduated. I had left, and I turned 18. Couple weeks, and stayed at my girlfriend's house. I was like so mad because I wanted to move out, but of course I was underage still, and my mom wouldn't let me leave. And by now, my stepdad decides it's like 1990. Yeah, it was it was 90s, and my stepdad decides to tell my mom, "Oh, I'm leaving you." And who do you think he's leaving her for? I didn't need to guess, but so my mom gets mad, and she's mad at me because of course she's blaming it on me that he's leaving her. And I'm like, wow, mom, you're like, really? He's leaving you for the lady that I saw him with like a couple of years ago, which obviously he's still been with, and now whatever. So I don't really try to console my mom or anything because I didn't really know how to console people because she didn't really ever console me. But of course, my mom can't afford the house all by herself. My brother had already moved out, and I had a job, but I didn't make enough to help with all the bills. And of course my stepdad wanted, to sell the house so he could have half the money. So they ended up selling the house. My mom didn't really have anywhere to go. So, and she didn't want to stay in Tennessee because she didn't really know anyone there. So she wants to move me, my brother, and her to Florida. Okay. And the reason why Florida is because that's where her sister was and her sister's family. And they were going to let us stay with them until my mom could get back on her feet. So we went to Florida and I hated it, absolutely hated it. Oh my God, it was so gross in Florida. And I'm not trying to be mean. If anyone loves Florida, good for you. I did not like Florida. I was always sticky. I always felt wet. It was hot. It was so hot. And I had asthma. So I hated Florida. Like it was so hard on my breathing. The weather, I didn't like it. But of course, where am I supposed to go? I'm underage and I can't leave. So we move in with my aunt and uncle and their family, and my mom trying to find a job and she can't find a job, or my brother finds a job right away and I find a job with my aunt. And so both me and my mom, me and my brother are working. My mom can't find a job because my mom always worked in factories, so she couldn't find a job anywhere. And so me and my brother are working, and my brother, of course, he has his car, and I'm using my mom's car to go to work. Or half the time I would drive in with my aunt because she would work at the same place. Sometimes we'd be on the same shift. So I'm trying to help my mom and my brother. We're putting all of our money together and we are able to find an apartment. So we get an apartment, we move into this apartment, and my mom, of course, still doesn't have a job, but she's using her, money that she got from the divorce and everything. But we didn't have a lot of money. So we were pretty much, living off of bags of chips and, some tuna and stuff like that. We weren't, living high on the hog. I could tell you that right now. And, my mom was depressed. My mom was very depressed and she was upset because she couldn't find a job. She felt bad that my brother and I were paying all the bills. And then tragedy hits. We find out my grandmother has been accidentally hit by a car and she broke her hips and she needs help. So of course my mom right away is like, we're going home. We're going back to Rhode Island to help your grandmother. Well, little does she know, my brother is like, yeah, I'm not going. And I was actually kind of shocked. I mean, I I thought for sure my mom was going to make him come, but she didn't. Nope. He said, I'm going to keep this apartment and you guys can go and I'll help you with a plane ticket. And I'm staying in Florida because I really love it. And so my mom said, all right. So he got us a plane ticket. Me and my mom went back to Rhode Island and we moved in with my grandmother. I start to see that my mom isn't really talking about my brother that much. Maybe because she was focused so much on her mom, and trying to help her heal and stuff. Because remember, my mom still has no job. She's just, both of us are living with my grandmother in a 1-bedroom apartment. And funny thing is, we are literally back in the same projects that I grew up in. Because my grandmother never left. She had an apartment there that whole time. She never left. And so, of course, my mom is putting in for an apartment. Can she get an apartment there? And we're waiting for an apartment. And I find a job. And all I can think about is I cannot wait until October, because when I turn 18, I'm going back to Tennessee. I don't care. I'm not staying here. She can stay here, but I'm not. I just wanted to get back to Tennessee. I wanted to get back to my boyfriend, my friends. I didn't want to stay with my mom. So we're living with my grandmother, and I find a job. And of course, all I can think about is I'm going to save as much money as I can to get back to Tennessee. That was my plan all along, which is so funny because what happens? Of course, things never happen the way you intend them to happen. I don't know about you guys, but every time I've tried to plan something, it never happens the way I want it to. So the next chapter of my life is going to be, you know, what happens after that. Because now I'm almost 18 now, and some big changes happen, things that I would never have been able to tell you was going to happen. So I'm going to talk about that in the next video. Everyone is enjoying my journey so far, and I hope you all have a blessed day, and I'll see you on the next video. My brother, he had come home, and he heard everybody yelling at each other and whatnot. He started yelling at my stepdad, and it just caused like this huge fight between everybody. And so I said, I'm just gonna go to my friend's house until everyone calms down. And that's what I did. I had left, and for probably a couple weeks I stayed at my girlfriend's house, um and all that, like, fell to the wayside, I would say, because nobody brought it up ever again, and everything. And so now, um, my brother had already graduated high school by now, and I'm in the 12th grade. And I couldn't wait to graduate because I just literally wanted to leave and move out of my house and just go move in with my boyfriend forever. And I had so my brother at the time told my mom he was going to move out and go into an apartment. He already had a job and everything. And so